Do you want to know what the secret ingredients to a beautiful brown even crust?
Well, today on WTF, we're going to look at diastatic malt powder and all the great uses of it. Hello and welcome to WTF, where we transform food here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott Guerin.
And I'm Janie Wang, the owner of Modernist Pantry. Today, Scott and I are going to be talking about diastatic malt powder, which is an awesome ingredient to have in any baking pantry, in our opinion. So we wanted to make sure we cover it and how you can use it in your own recipes. And as you can see, we have donuts and bagels here, so I'm very excited personally.
Me too.
So Scott, why don't we start with what is diastatic malt powder?
Sure. Diastatic malt powder is a powder that contains an enzyme called amylase. And what amylase does is it consumes starches and it makes sugars. So what it does in your bread or in your dough is that it consumes some of the starch, creates sugar, and it will give you a nice even browning. Also will help with the rise of it because more sugar is more food for the yeast. Yeah,
and I know that I've heard about diastatic versus non-diastatic. Can you just briefly explain what exactly does that mean?
So non-diastatic basically just has some sugar in it, but diastatic has the amylase enzyme.
Okay. And I know that, do you want to kind of cover, I see that we have a beautiful plates of stuff, like kind of what exactly is the role that diastatic malt powder played in these particular things that we're making today?
Sure. So we made donuts and bagels, two kind of breakfast breads. And the reason why we did it is we wanted that nice, beautiful golden crust, and we wanted it to be even. So in these two bagels, this is a good example. This is the same exact recipe as the one to the left of it, but you can see how uneven it is, right? There's white spots, and we cooked them at the exact same time, exact same conditions. So you can definitely see how much more even and beautiful this is. And you can also see it's a little bit more plump too, right? So that yeast had more time to rise, and it, well, it had the exact same time, but it had more food to help the rise.
Yeah, this is definitely a much tastier looking bagel for sure. And when people are using it, obviously they'll get our recipes on the blog, and if you're not sure how to get there, just go on the link, it's in the description. But if they're like, well, I know that I've been making donuts and bagels and breads and whatever else, how much of it do I use?
So the amount can vary really to whatever you're making, but you really want to use like half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon per cup of flour. That's really what it's going to be. It may, you may be making a recipe where, oh, I think I need a little bit more, I think I need a little bit less, but just make sure you start off with that ratio, 1/2 to 1 teaspoon per cup of flour.
All right. And outside of, obviously donuts and bagels, what other types of baked goods would really benefit from this?
The pretzels that we made here on WTF, I think it was episode 142, we used diastatic malt powder right in the pretzels themselves. So the sodium hydroxide gave that nice crust, but they were nice, beautifully even color as well.
Okay. And all right. So I know one question I sometimes get is people asking, is this a gluten-free product?
No, it is not a gluten-free product, which we've tried to make, a lot of gluten-free foods here, and diastatic malt powder always pops in my head like, oh, I should use some, and then I remember, oh, I can't, it's not gluten-free, so.
Yeah, so unfortunately not, but, and I know that some other people will say, well, is it the same thing as malt syrup? I have that in my pantry. I have malted barley. Like, can I just substitute it? Like, it has the word malt in it. Is it the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing. It's just like the non-diastatic malt powder. It's just a sweetener pretty much, or it's sugar at that point. Malt syrup can be used, let's say, if you wanted to boil the bagels in malt syrup, you could do that. But it's not going to add any, help with the rise. It's not going to make sure it's nice and even on the outside.
All right, so if you want to get this beautiful effect, you really have to get diastatic malt powder exactly as it's worded.
It's kind of just a secret weapon in any baker's kitchen. It really works for everything.
Wonderful. Well, why don't we jump into the demo?
Cool.
I feel like we've talked enough and it smells really good. And
so the demo is really cool because we're going to be making donuts, and we went through quite a bit of testing to nail down a beautiful donut recipe. And we started with something that was similar to a brioche, but we ended up finding it was a bit too greasy, and just when I eat donuts, I generally want to eat more than one, but I felt full after one, right? So we removed some of the butter and we added cream cheese, which we found gave it a really nice richness, a little bit more complexity to it, but also didn't give it that ultra fatty feel. Also, we noticed that our recipe was picking up a lot of extra oil. And I used, I came up with a way to reduce that oil by adding Methicel E4M, which as it starts to fry, it'll kind of help repel that oil from coming inside. So the outside will be nice and crispy, but the inside will just be like a nice, beautiful donut. All
right, and for people who have never heard of Methicel, what is Methicel?
Methicel, I mean, we have an episode on it. It's actually episode 120. Like we said, links in the description below. Methicel is a really interesting ingredient where when it heats, it actually creates a gel, and as it cools, it reverts back to a liquid. So as this is cooking right now, it's creating a gel and it's repelling off that oil. And then when it cools, it'll just go right back to the nice, beautiful bread. So I'm going to fry this donut, the donut with the hole punched out in the middle. I'm going to fry it for 1 minute on each side, and I'm going to do that for 4 total minutes. So it's going to be flipped 4 times. Now, one thing I found is with the full, the fillable donut here, I'm going to flip it every 10 seconds because I want to make sure that there isn't just a big air bubble on one side. So I'm going to place it in, and I'm just going to wait 10 seconds and then flip.
Interesting.
So now this one's at 1 minute. We can do that. All right.
Ooh, look how brown it is already.
About 10 seconds.
And as you're flipping the donuts, it actually just reminded me that I know that we have an Ask a Chef on the blog about frying oil that I personally felt was really interesting. Yes. Do you want to give the viewers a bit of a teaser?
So a very nice little tidbit is I use the same oil to fry all my tests, but when I set up this fryer for today, I took just a little bit of my oil from all the tests and I placed it in with some new oil. And what that does is it takes the broken down oil and it helps condition the new oil, because sometimes when you start frying in brand new oil, you'll notice that it is. Let me flip this one right over.
It doesn't want to go.
Yeah, it doesn't want to go. So when you fry in brand new oil, you'll notice that it can be really spotty because the oil hasn't broken down enough to get that nice, beautiful, even fry on it. Okay, so these are good. And after I do this for about 2 minutes, 1 minute flipping every 10 seconds, then I'm going to flip every 30 seconds. Very simple. And when those are done, I just take them out. You can put them on a rack, or I'm just going to put them onto some dry paper towels before letting them cool completely, because if you try to put these directly into your sauces or whatever, it's just going to run off at this point. So let them cool. I know it's going to be difficult. Trust us. We've eaten plenty of hot donuts in the past 2 weeks. So
that's what I like.
30 more seconds. I just flip it over. Okay. I got about 30 more seconds, then I can flip this one more time.
Yeah, and I think just kind of I just want to go back to the Methicel real quick, because it's such an interesting subject. If you haven't already, link in the description points you to episode 120. And it's kind of cool because there are so many different types of methicellulose.
Yep.
And I think the oil repelling properties of the E4M is pretty unique, and there's some other cool applications you can do that, was it like frying fish where there's a lot of moisture problems, so it doesn't have to be oil, right? Like it repels basically anything.
I've seen it where people make like a little, instead of egg batter, they'll make a Methicel, so it goes into the Methicel and then goes into their dry ingredients, and that's when you can see that beautiful donut right there. And that's when it fries the outside, but it keeps the inside nice and beautiful without all that oil coming in and seeping in.
Yeah, and we love frying things over here in our test kitchen.
Tell me about it.
So if you haven't, I think that we also did an entire episode all around frying, and that was it?
The link will be in the description below.
Yeah, I think
we're calling it on the fly.
Number 104. It's one of the first ones we did.
Yep.
Number 104, all about Evercrisp.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's right.
Yep. So we did talk about Evercrisp, and we actually attempted in one of our tests, and it's kind of cool to get into the mind of what we did during our test. We tried to put some Evercrisp into these donuts to get a nice crispy outside, and you can see how beautifully even this is. So when I put it down,
I love that color.
Right, it's gorgeous. It has a nice, you can hear it. It's a little crisp on the outside and soft on the inside. I'm just going to give this one more flip. But the Evercrisp in this donut, we were trying to mimic the texture of a cake donut and the inside of a yeasted donut. And what we found was the Evercrisp, in doing that, really kind of took away from the gluten in there, because that's what it does. It replaces some of that gluten, and we really need a nice glutinous donut. So this is the only thing that I found that Evercrisp doesn't. It worked, they tasted good, but it's not exactly what we wanted. Yeah. But we have a nice, beautiful product here that we find is probably the best donut we've had.
Yes, and what exactly is the difference between a breaded donut and a yeasted donut?
So it's basically two different doughs. One is more of a batter, one of them is more like a cake, and the other one is yeasted. This is a high gluten development, and what we did was, we put it into a mixer, and actually it takes about 25 minutes once the mixing process starts before our dough even comes out. So it's developing a lot of gluten. We actually add extra vital wheat gluten on top of the bread flour, so it gets that nice chew, a nice pull to it. We can fill it, we can glaze it, we can do all these things without having to worry about it breaking down or seeping in with the flavors that are on top, or melting them.
Right. Wonderful. All right. And what's next now that our donuts are out of the fryer?
We would have to let these cool. We
do not
have to let them cool. Yeah.
Burn our mouths. Okay.
You could eat them warm, but I would suggest if you're going to do that, just drizzle some frosting over the top. But it's always best let them cool, and then you can dip them like we did with all of these. But I think really all we have to do is eat these.
Sweet. All right. And what do we have here? Any special toppings here?
So you can do whatever you want. Okay. There will be a recipe in the blog that is for different frostings that you put on top, but then after that, whatever you put on top of that is up to you. You can do walnuts, you can do some coconut, you can do shaved chocolate. We took two of the frostings and mixed them together to make these. Powdered sugar works, so it's really up to you. And then the fillings on the inside will be, you can just purchase some nice jelly, or if you make jelly or jam from one of our episodes, you can put that right on the inside.
All right, I'm going to go for the shaved chocolate.
All right, I'm going to go for just chocolate frosted back here.
Ooh.
Should we cheers it?
Cheers to donuts. So good.
Yep. All right, well, we should probably wrap this up, Janie.
Definitely do it with our mouths full. All right, so hopefully you've been inspired to get baking with some donuts, some bagels, and you can add it to bread, really anything. It's super versatile, and it will bring this beautiful brown crust to anything that you really want to make with it.
Yes.
So we're excited to see what you come up with, and as always, get our recipes, check out the videos, and if you do have any questions, we're here to help. So from here in the Modernist Pantry Test Kitchen, I'm Janie Wang.
And I'm Scott Guerin. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. And turn that bell on, because it notifies you when we drop a new video.
If you like any of today's recipes, go to blog.modernistpantry.com. There you'll find recipes, Ask a Chefs, and tips and tricks, and more.
If you have a friend who you think would like this video, share it with them.
And to get any of these great ingredients, just go to our website, www.modernistpantry.com.
And until next time, we'll be here in the Test Kitchen, helping you create memorable and magical experiences.